This is the nationwide shocking starvation death in an orchard supernatural incident from Bengbu. It is said that when the body was discovered, the man had already been dead for about 10 days. He was actually a fugitive wanted for a homicide. The eerie part is that the man was said to have starved to death purely out of fright. Later, when the police arrived at the scene and the forensic team conducted an investigation, several suspicious details were uncovered. Inside the deceased's wallet was 1,500 yuan in cash, yet he never spent a single cent, even as he starved to death. If he had been imprisoned, why was the door locked from the inside outward? With the key still found on his body, why were the walls covered in countless black handprints? Even stranger, why was the man clinging tightly to a Taishan Shigandang, a stone stele meant to ward off evil? How could such a ruthless criminal end up being scared to death inside a small tiled hut in an orchard? Today's story will challenge everything you think you know. Before we begin, leave the phrase "no taboos" in the comments and tag your bravest friend to watch with you. This incident took place on a country road near Kaishu village, Bengbu City, Anhui Province. One morning, an old villager named Old Li went out for a stroll. Walking slowly, he passed by his family's old orchard. Looking at the orchard, which once supported his whole family but had long since been abandoned, he couldn't help but sigh. Now only Old Li remained in the village. His children had all gone to the city. But this time, something about the orchard seemed unusual. In the middle of the fruit trees stood a small tiled hut, long unused since the orchard was deserted. Yet today, Old Li noticed that the hut's door was tightly shut. Normally, such an old and abandoned door should have long since rotted away, so how could it be so firmly closed? Curiosity drove him closer. When he lightly pushed the door, it didn't budge. To his shock, it had actually been locked from inside. That made him even more suspicious. After forcing the door a few more times, a wave of strong stench seeped out through the cracks, like the smell of rotting rats. The hut had no windows, so once the door was closed, the inside was pitch black. Nothing could be seen through the crack. But Old Li, no stranger to wilderness living, wasn't deterred. He quickly found a sturdy tree branch, wedged one end into the crack, and pushed with all his strength, using the wall as leverage. The door, long weakened by years of decay, gave way under his force. With a loud crack, it opened. Old Li swung the door wide to let the foul air escape and to let sunlight shine inside. What he saw next nearly scared him into wetting himself. In the corner of the room squatted a man in his 30s. The room was empty otherwise, but flies swarmed around him, and the overwhelming stench was clearly coming from the man's body. It was obvious he had been dead for many days. The entire corpse collapsed slowly against the brick wall, tilting to the left. But by then, the body had already stiffened, so even after falling, it remained upright in a sitting posture. This sight nearly scared the battle-hardened old man Li out of his wits. His terrified scream pierced the brief silence of Kaishu village. Before long, the 8 Gates team from the city arrived at the scene and carried the man's body onto a vehicle for forensic examination. Even their leader, Li Zongping, was startled by the eerie posture of the corpse. Soon the autopsy results came out. The cause of death was severe. Malnutrition, in plain words. The man had starved to death. The forensic doctor found that the victim's stomach and intestines contained no trace of food, meaning he hadn't eaten anything for at least 5 days. But the bizarre part was this. The investigators found a wallet on the deceased. Inside were not only 1,500 yuan in cash, but also several bank cards, each with a decent balance. This immediately ruled out poverty as the reason for starvation. What deepened the mystery was the setting. The dilapidated house had only one entrance, a fragile wooden door with a simple lock. The only key to that lock was found in the dead man's jacket pocket. Moreover, there were no signs of restraint or abuse on his body, disproving the theory that he had been imprisoned there by someone else. The only explanation left was the man's posture. He had curled himself up in the southeast corner of the room, as if hiding from something terrifying, and when fingerprints were collected, investigators discovered a dense number of prints that did not belong to the deceased, covering almost every surface of the room, from the walls to the roof. The only untouched area was the very corner where the man had cowered. The victim's identity was soon uncovered. His name was Liu Buju, a most wanted fugitive long pursued by the Bashan authorities. He had spent years working far from home, but upon returning to his village, He discovered his wife was having an affair with a fellow villager. Enraged, he killed her, dismembered her body, and dumped the remains into the Hucheng River before fleeing. He had been missing for over a month. The truly unsettling part was this. The fingerprints found all over the shack were identified as belonging to his dead wife. This revelation left Li Zongping deep in thought. What exactly had Liu experienced before his death? Could it be that his wife's vengeful spirit had pursued him all the way to this crumbling hut, trapping him in that southeast corner and starving him alive? But then, a question lingered. Why had her ghost not dared to approach that very corner? It was only after the Bashan team removed Liu's body that they discovered the answer. Hidden right where he had huddled was a strangely shaped bluish-green stone, carved with 5 characters, Taishan Shigandang. The stone of Mount Tai dares to stand against evil. In that moment, everything made sense. For centuries, such Taishan stones had been used to ward off spirits and suppress malevolent forces. A stone inscribed with Taishan Shigandang